Welcome in, gang, to another Hades 2 video. Today we're going to be talking about one boon you should avoid from each of the standard Olympians. You can see the list of who I consider standard on screen. Standard Olympians to me are the ones that imbue their element, curse, or power into your attack, special, cast, and or sprint. For this definition, Hermes and Artemis will not be on this list as they function slightly differently than the rest of their family. Selene and Chaos also work very differently than the Olympians, so they will not be on the list. Making this video with 40 hours playtime and several 8 Nightmare wins under my belt. And to be clear, I will specifically be talking about Hades 2 early access before any balance change updates have been made. With that disclaimer out of the way, I hope that this video might help you out a bit if you're having a hard time knowing if the boons you're picking are any good or not. Maybe you're still working on that first successful run and you're not sure what's going wrong. Some of your boon choices might be the reason. I should also mention that these are just my opinions, and opinions are subject to change. Just because a particular boon might be my last pick doesn't mean you can't find success and even wins with any of the boons on this list. The game is still new and we are still learning, so if one of your favorites is mentioned here, please feel free to tell me how wrong I am in the comments. Enough chatting, let's talk about some bad boons. Aphrodite. Broken Resolve. Your weak effects are more potent. The reason I don't think you should pick up Broken Resolve is entirely because of how weak works as a curse. With this boon, weak afflicted enemies will do slightly reduced damage to you. This is fine, but in Hades 2, as was the case in Hades 1, it's always better to just not get hit in the first place. By taking this boon, you're essentially doubling down on that defensive curse, which will grant you no benefit if you're dodging well enough anyways. You're much better off grabbing one of Aphrodite's great boons, like her magic restoration, her primer, or her attack, for example. This boon also has a much better counterpart that I recommend instead, Sweet Surrender. Instead of doubling down on the weak effect, Sweet Surrender leaves that base damage reduction from the weak curse, but also allows you to deal a percent-based increased damage to weak afflicted enemies. This is way better than Broken Resolve, since if you're killing things more quickly, they have less time and opportunities to attack you and possibly cause you to take damage. Apollo. Light Smite. After you take damage, your foe takes damage, and you inflict daze on all foes. A boon that only activates when you get hit? No thanks. I'd much rather have Apollo's Sprint or Omega Cast than this. The Sprint inflicts daze for free, and daze gives you a chance to not get hit when you otherwise would have. Light Smite requires you to get hit in order for it to work at all, and you should never rely on boons like that if you hope to make it past Chronos. Why would I want to get hit just to apply a status effect that gives me a small chance to not get hit again for a few seconds? I guess the burst damage is decent-ish, but it's nothing compared to the damage from Hera's boon with a similar revenge effect. Demeter. Tranquil Gain. After remaining inactive for 1 second, rapidly restore magic until you act. This was a hard pick since Demeter has a really well-rounded boon pool. This isn't a horrible boon per se, but Hades 2 is all about movement. You have to keep moving to dodge attacks with your base movement, your dash, and your sprint. So when you need to completely stand still for 1 second before your magic regeneration can kick in, that's never a good thing. Excuse me, Mr. Chronos, 1 moment please, so I can get some magic back. Yeah, right, the dude doesn't even let you pause to go to the bathroom until you've beaten him a few times. The only time this boon is good might be between boss phases or on bosses with large windows of downtime between attacks, like the Infernal Beast, for example. It's an okay boon that gets the job done if you really need it, but there's so many better magic restoration boons that don't require you to sit around in the middle of a hectic fight. Hephaestus. Fixed Gain. You take minus 10% damage, and restore some magic whenever you take damage. Another boon on my list that only works when you take damage. Having your magic restoration being tied to getting smacked is just a really bad idea. Health is a very limited resource in this game, and you should never trade it for magic. I appreciate the damage reduction, but you can regenerate magic in better ways than this from other gods. Not to mention, Hephaestus has so many S-tier boons in his pool, so what are you doing picking this one? Hera. Nexus Sprint. Your sprint inflicts hitch on nearby foes, which spreads to other foes near them. I think I would like this boon more if it also gave some kind of speed boost like Apollo's Sprint does. Apollo gets a speed boost and a status effect, but Hera just gets the status effect. I guess not all boons are created equal. This is an okay sprint boon if you just really need another status effect in your run, since applying 2 status effects at the same time is one of the best ways to deal damage in Hades 2. In my opinion though, Hera really shines in her other boons, like her attack and her special, since they can inflict hitch and get a massive damage percent boost. Pick those instead, there are better sprints out there from the other Olympians. Also, I found this boon a little bit finicky and glitchy in the early access. It's kind of hard to apply the hitch sometimes when I feel like it should be applying, and I just kind of run around in circles until it actually applies sometimes. Hestia. Burnt Offering. Gain max life and max magic, but give up 1 boon selected by Hestia. Honestly, it was really hard to pick a bad boon for Hestia. Her whole boon list is incredibly well rounded, but I have to pick something for the sake of the video. Burnt Offering is really only useful if you're stuck with a bad boon you don't want, but like, just don't pick bad boons then? I know you can't always get exactly what you want from your boon options, but if you've got the Arcana to re-roll your boon options, you shouldn't really get stuck with bad boons very often. I never find myself picking Burnt Offering, especially since Hestia randomly selects which boon you'll burn, so you're not even guaranteed to be burning away the boon you no longer want. It's too random an effect for my liking. Poseidon. Double up. Whenever you claim a minor find or similar resource reward, a copy may appear. I'm not a big fan of Poseidon's resource boons when I could be grabbing really strong boons like his special and his curse. After all, collecting a little extra Ash and Psyche really isn't going to help you win the particular run that you're on. On top of that, the common rarity for this particular boon only has a 20% chance to activate, so you might grab this boon and never even see the benefits from it. If you have to grab a resource boon from Poseidon, at least do Sunken Treasure since it drops healing and coins. Zeus. Spirit Surge. While you have no more than 10 magic, all foes are occasionally struck by lightning. When playing Hades 2, how often do you find yourself below 10 magic? And when you're there, how long do you stay there? I feel like you have to intentionally build around this boon in order for it to work, with some kind of magic burning build with limited to no magic regeneration in hopes of keeping this particular boon active. I'm not sure how strong that would even be, since personally, I find the most success in my runs from dealing massive damage with magic and omega attacks while regenerating that magic back up. I usually grab a good magic regeneration boon alongside equipping the tarot card that regenerates magic over time, so this boon is completely useless to me and is never active. And that's it. One boon from each Olympian that I think you shouldn't be picking. I hope the list helped or was at least interesting in some way. I'd love to hear if there are any boons that you guys avoid constantly that I didn't mention down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.